can see people's ages, and today I met a woman who's 300 years old. Have you ever seen those stupid TikTok trends that have been going around lately? You know, the ones where it's like where the person's 18th birthday and they can choose between two different abilities, and the choices are stupid shit, like being able to see how much money a person has in their bank account or able to see if someone has met their soulmate or not. Well, guess what? I'm the poor sap that has to live with one of those abilities in real life. I can see how old a person is by the shiny white numbers that are floating above their head. It's not glamorous or cool. Okay, I take it back. I'm a blast when I go to the country fair and hit the guess my age stall. I'm being sarcastic if you couldn't tell. My ability is pretty much useless and downright annoying sometimes. I mean, how's a guy supposed to save the world just by knowing how old someone is? What I'm getting at is being able to see people's ages is more of a nuisance than a superpower. The numbers are pretty blinding, and my attention always gravitates to the right above of a person's head, even when I'm not trying to. Now imagine how that looks to a pretty girl you're talking to and all they see is you staring just slightly behind them. I've gotten one too many slaps in the face for doing that. I've always I wasn't always a freak though. There was a period of my life when I was a normal kid with a regular childhood. The seeing people ages thing happened after the near-death experience I had when I was 10 years old. Thankfully, nothing too traumatic happened. I just got stung by a bee and almost drowned in a pool. It was the end of summer, and my parents were hosting an annual back-to-school barbecue. Everyone had just gone inside to escape the sweltering summer heat and eat some good food. As good as my salt is spicy, white parents could whip up, that is. I stayed outside to play by myself a bit since I was only a kid there, and I was always I stayed outside to play by myself a bit since I was only a kid there. It was always my parents, friends, and a few extended family members who went to those parties, none of my friends. The party was mostly for my parents, who were just celebrating having made it through another summer with me. It's not like I was a bad kid or anything, though. Or maybe I was, and I'm just remembering things differently otherwise. Maybe I wouldn't have almost died. I was 10, so my parents didn't worry too much about me playing outside in the backyard by myself. After all, at the age, I was supposed to be a big boy. Anyways, I was out of the pool playing with some random toy when a bee suddenly landed on my hand. The thing you should know about me is that I'm deadly allergic to bees. Like carrying around an EpiPen in my pocket at all times, allergic to bees. I froze when I saw it, too scared to do anything. The bee must have been in a bad mood that day because it decided I was a threat and it stung me, even though I hadn't done anything. I swatted the thing off my hand as a hot, steering pain started to radiate through my skin. I stood up after freaking the hell out as I could feel my skin puff up and the sensation of my throat slowly starting to close. In my panic, I hadn't been paying too much attention to my surroundings. One misstep later, and I plummeted into the deep end of our in-ground pool. At least the water was refreshing enough to cool the heat flooding through my veins. In that quick second, I remembered the existence of my EpiPen. I frantically grabbed it for my life-saving medication in my pocket. Feeling what little air supply I had left in my lungs quickly leaving me, my heart sank as I realized my EpiPen wasn't in my pocket anymore. My vision was starting to blur and had become dotted with a bunch of little stars around the edges. I desperately searched around in the water as I continued to sink deeper. Finally, my eyes landed on a white, blue, and orange pen. Resisting the immense urge to breathe in, I reached out for the EpiPen. The first swipe, it just had hit my tips of my fingers. The motion, however, made the pen sink farther away from me. Some bubbles came out of my mouth in an urge of frustration. That wasn't good, seeing as that breath out was about 50% of the oxygen I had left. With all my might, which wasn't much since I had so much oxygen deprived, I managed to swim down and grab my EpiPen. By that point, my vision was almost completely black, and my lips were tingled. Something fierce, blue to the sky, orange to the thigh, I thought to myself as I uncapped the thing and stabbed myself in the leg, praying the medicine would work underwater. After that, all the fight left in me and everything went black and numb. Obviously, I had to die. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today typing this out for you to read. I woke up in the hospital about 2 months later, where the doctor informed me I was less than a minute away from dying when I was rescued. Thank God my mom had a gut feeling and went outside to check on me. To this day, she tells me it was just a little too quiet in the house and I had a bad feeling. My mom found my EpiPen floating on the surface of the pool and my body at the bottom. She jumped in and managed to get me back to the surface, where I coughed up some of the water I swallowed, but stayed unconscious. Turns out my brain lost enough oxygen to go into hibernation mode or something, causing my body to enter into a coma state. It took 2 months for my brain to get its shit together enough for me to handle consciousness. You better think the worst part was coming back from the coma would be all the therapy that came after it. The physical therapy to learn how to walk again and regain control over my limbs. The speech therapy to learn how to talk again. The actual therapy where I had to express all my feelings towards what happened to me. Yeah, all that bullshit sucked ass. Don't get me wrong, to me, though the worst part was everybody asked me what it was like to be in a coma. I'd constantly been berated by the nurses, doctors, and even my parents about what I remembered during my extended slumber, which, by the way, wasn't much. It was mostly black nothingness to sorry. The only thing I vaguely remember was a dream. There was a garden, big and eternal, like every plant invincible to man was planted there, and then some. Plants that had never been seen before to the human eye. It could only be described as beautiful. There was also a woman there who was sweet and motherly like. Her hair was blonde and looked like her hair had been spun by an orb weaver spider. She wore a long white silk dress, and her essence reminded me of a goddess. The most interesting thing about her were her eyes. It's like they changed color every second, never staying in one specific hue. I think we had a conversation, but this all happened a long time ago. But I can't tell you what was said. The dream ended with her kissing my forehead. Before that, when I woke up, after coming out of the coma, I knew something was different about me.